Now, Chase,
Mhm.
since this is a food encounter, I'm shocked you're not going to use an ooze anywhere.
See, I was thinking about, well, yeah, that's true.
Green ooze, it screams Jello monster.
It does. That's true. It's not a bad idea, actually. Let's take a look at that.
Hello, fellow geeks. Welcome to this special episode of GM Real Talk. This is something new for us. We decided to record a GM prep session, and we ended up talking about all things Daggerheart and beyond. Hopefully this helps you in your Daggerheart prep, or you learn a thing or two about GMing. Either way, let us know what you think of this content and if you'd like to see more of it in the future. Now, let's roll. Hello, fellow geeks. Welcome to, I don't really know what we're calling this, Daggerheart prep session?
Homework.
Yeah, homework. We've never recorded anything like this before, so maybe we won't even end up posting this, or maybe we will, and I don't know when. So if you're hearing this, we decided it wasn't garbage after all. But tonight, Chase and I are just going to be, mostly Chase, but I'm going to be learning from Chase. We're going to be prepping for the Daggerheart session that we are going to be playing on our channel. I won't be playing, so I can hear all the spoilers without any trouble. Chase is a good DM, and I wanted to learn how he preps his sessions because I don't actually know.
So I got my music going. It's important.
Is that step number one?
That's step number one. You got.
What are you listening to? I should pull it up too.
I'm listening to the delicious In Dungeon soundtrack.
Oh, excellent idea. I'll pull that up too. Would you say you always listen to music when you prep?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta get into the brain space. When I prepped Ryotama, I listened to Stardew Valley music.
That's perfect.
Which is actually how I stumbled across that character creators, because I was Stardew
well, it worked out so well then.
Yeah. My prep has gotten cleaner over like the last few months.
Even for Daggerheart? I mean, you've never prepped Daggerheart before now.
Yeah, I've prepped a lot of Daggerheart in the last few weeks, though.
I guess that's true. You've been running a lot of one-offs for people.
Yeah. But just for everything, I've tried to start like outlining my stuff better, and I'm trying to find the balance of like, I'm trying to write like buzz scripts of like fun things to kind of narrate the scene. I don't like to like force it, because I don't ever like things to be like on the rails, but like I like to have like little scripts of stuff that I can read off and riff off of to like not get lost in what I'm trying to describe.
Do you write that up for things just that occur to you as important? Like, oh, this could come up and it could be an important moment, or like, how do you decide what's worth describing?
I've been doing it like for intros, like to set the scene. And then I've been trying to do it for like important scenes that I'm gonna more or less force. Like when I run a session, and I don't ever force anything, but I have a general idea of like events that will happen, and I will try to nudge the players in that direction. And so like the scenes that I anticipate, I try to have like one little description for each of them. And then I've tried to also put like descriptions for my NPCs and stuff ahead of time as well, because I found like I do really good winging it with like dialogue and stuff, but I'm not always the best at like painting word pictures on the spot. And so I'm trying to fix that by like giving myself some direction.
You were inspired by our excellent descriptions in Stolen Fate.
I was, actually. You guys are all really good at that. And it's something that I was lacking. And so when we went to WonderCon, it was like I made a list of things for myself to try to get better at. And that was one of them that I put on the list for myself.
Well, it's been fun listening to your descriptions.
Thanks. I think like a lot of the listeners will probably like the descriptions, because it's just like in theory, we're doing a similar thing to an audiobook for people.
Yeah, I think it is easier if you're like, you're like doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of easier to absorb the details. When you're just like sitting at a table playing, sometimes it can be hard to listen to a DM give a really long, read
you're looking at your abilities and you're like ready to go and you're going to jump in. Like, I know M notoriously doesn't like big long descriptions in like any game. Like even like we played board games that do like the long descriptions for like story games. She's not about that life. But
She
some
does
people
such a
like
good
them.
job creating them, though. That's funny.
She does, yeah.
All right, so Daggerheart prep. You are prepping Beast Feast, which is a campaign frame
Yeah.
that they already have.
Yes.
So what does prepping off of that look like? And how much okay, this is too many questions in one, but how much customization did you do?
Yeah, so like they have all these campaign frames, and the campaign frames are pretty cool and pretty deep. Like they give you the setting, but they don't give you like a full setting like an adventure path would. They give you like just the basic setup of like what the world is all about. So like Beast Feast sets up, they have touchstones that they include. So like Beast Feast touchstones are Delicious in Dungeon, Monster Hunter World, and One Piece. And it's like heavily on the Delicious in Dungeon side. Like this is basically Delicious in Dungeon setting. And
if anyone hasn't watched that show, by the way, one, you should, and two, it's basically about adventurers going through a dungeon and surviving by eating the monsters that they encounter. And that sounds pretty gruesome, but it's sort of a cozy, cute show.
they do
Until
it very
it's not.
cutesy.
There are
Like,
also some very
yeah,
parts.
it's whimsical, I would say.
Yeah.
But they have like it's like a little messed up if you think about it too hard. But they're like starving adventurers who feed themselves by hunting monsters. So I mean, it's like basically survival foraging, but with dungeon monsters, right? And they make the food look all tasty, like in your like food focused animes. And
you better work on your food descriptions, Chase.
I know. Well, so interestingly enough, so that's the thing. So like this one goes really, so each of the campaign frames gives a setting. It alters some of the rules slightly. Like it'll give special rules for particular classes sometimes, or it might alter the magic system a little bit. It might like change the background slightly. So you go over all of those changes with the players. And then it goes over like player principles to keep in mind as they make their characters, and GM principles to keep in mind when they're running the session. And like you said, the first GM principle is make it delicious, and has a whole thing about making sure you make the food sound tasty. And then they have like an inciting incident if you want to have like a incident to kick off the campaign, or you can make your own. The whole shtick of Daggerheart is every single thing for the GM always ends with or make your own. Like they're very all about like you don't have to follow this. Like these are just examples, but do your own thing. So like in Beast Feast, I'm not gonna go super deep into all of their background because we're just doing a one shot. So I don't want to spend too much time like getting super deep into the lore. And I'm actually not gonna focus it a ton on food. Like I'll have some food descriptions and some fun food puns and some things like that. Like I know that my first monster that they're gonna fight is an umami minotaur, which umami is like your savory taste. So
wait, a minotaur made of that, or like
it's gonna be a mushroom minotaur, but I'm calling it an umami minotaur.
I love that
because it's gonna be savory mushrooms, and when you hit it, it's gonna smell like garlic butter. So
wow,
yeah,
that does sound delicious.
Yeah, but more than focus on the food, because like the campaign frame has like rules for how to make your own feast, and it like drastically changes the downtime rules, which are pretty good. But since this is a one shot, we're not really going to get into the downtime, and so I'm just kind of using it as a setting. I'm going to have the heroes are all going to be part of like a group that hunts in the dungeon for the queen and like brings monster food back for the queen to use for her feasts. And they've done such a good job that the session is going to be that they got invited to a feast themselves for the first time ever. And I want it to play out more focused on like social intrigue. And so like all of these campaign frames have questions that you can ask your players about their characters to integrate them into the setting. And it ends with or make your own. And so I'm going to do something a little different. And I have like agenda cards. They're not cards, but like I have agendas that I'm going to list out to the players, and I'm going to let everybody choose one. And then I have 3 questions associated with each agenda. And so I want this session to play out where like they're going to be just mingling at the feast, and everybody's going to have their own little political agenda they want to complete. And then I'm going to end it with some chaos. So that's the general outline I have.
Okay. I think that sounds really cool. Backing up, how did you land there?
It just popped into my head. I
you
don't
just
know.
woke up and you're like, hello, Queen Space. I guess, I mean, what about the agenda? Is the agenda card something you've seen somewhere before?
I mean, part of the reason that, like, I guess, like, how I got the inspiration is I read through the settings and I was just trying to think, like, I kind of struggle with one shots sometimes. And so I was trying to think, like, what is a concept that I could do that's not going to require a lot of setup, that is not going to require, like, a big chain of events that has to happen, that can kind of put it in the player's court to just, like, make what they want of it. And then I can just, like, I have, like, a hard stopping event, which for this one is going to be a rival, which I'm going to establish in the starting questions, is going to be a necromancer and is going to animate all the food. And so they're going to fight a food monster and their rival necromancer at the end. And I guess this might have been slightly influenced. I've been playing Pendragon. Pendragon, one of the core mechanics is feasts. And at the feasts, like, they are kind of just like about, like, everybody takes turns doing, like, mingling events and stuff like that. And you're trying to, like, further your reputation and stuff. But I don't know. I just, like, it just sounded like a good way. They have social enemies in Daggerheart that I haven't played around with yet. And so I might try to do some of those in here where, like, you don't really, like, you're not in danger, but they're defeated through, like, social interactions. So I might tie some of those to some of the agendas and stuff. I'm still going to play around with that. But it just seems like a session that doesn't have any rails. I'm going to give them a general direction and then I'm just going to let the players, like, do their thing and I'm just going to wing it.
I feel like that's what my one shots usually end up being too.
Yeah.
You kind of just pick a general goal and then let them go at it until it feels like it's been about long enough.
One shots are actually really tricky, I think.
Mm-hmm. Like, I agree.
Because you want it to be like a self-contained good little story, but it's so hard to, like, plan time. Like, in a lot of the times I feel like they end up being rushed at the end.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why, like, I'm going to let them play it out as much as they want.
Let them cook.
Yeah, let them cook. Pun intended. And then I'm just going to throw a necromancer at them for, like, the last hour or so and plan for that little encounter.
That seems like a good structure. I guess we'll see how it works out in play.
Right.
Maybe it'll go terribly and then you'll be like, no, this is not the way.
Yeah, we'll see. So,
it sounds good, though, in theory.
Yeah. And then session 0, the idea that I have is we're going to make characters together. And then if we have time, which I think we will, because I'm getting pretty fast at walking people through, I have a very simple little encounter to, like, introduce the rules. Because I think Daggerheart is really good for that way. Is a lot of times it's tough with certain players because they don't ever want to read the rules. And Daggerheart's pretty easy to learn as you go, I think. And so the goal is do character creation, ask the questions, and then they're going to fight the Umami Minotaur if we have time. And that's going to be, like, their food that they're getting for the feast.
I see. Okay. So that's kind of first encounter.
Yeah. It's going to be a very trivial encounter. I'm not going to follow the normal encounter building rules. It'll just be super easy. It's going to be, like, tutorial, like, this is how you beat things up.
Everyone gets to hit the Minotaur once and then he dies.
Yeah. Like, I probably won't even give him, like, an actual health pool. We'll just beat him up till it feels right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about the downtime rules that the campaign frame uses. I am going to use the alternate starting equipment, though, because it's super cute. It's like giant forks and cooking knives and rolling pins and frying pans.
Cooking supplies. That's hilarious. So what are these agendas? Have you decided them yet?
Yeah, I've got them written out, I think. I'm going to just offer them the one-liner, and I'm going to have each player. So I'm going to have them do their connections first. And connections in Daggerheart is, like, everybody asks one other character in the group a question. And, like, you do that for each player at the table, unless you have more than 4, and then there's some extras. But it basically, like, establishes, like, how the players know each other, and it's a really good way to, like, kickstart a backstory. So I'm going to do that first so that they get an idea for what their characters are going to be like. And then I'm going to have everybody pick one of these. I have uncover a traitor, win a royal heart, poison a rival, secure a promotion, steal a secret recipe, sabotage the feast, or unmask a noble.
Wow. Are all of these going to be presented to everyone? Or
Yep.
are they going to like, okay,
Everybody's
so they're all
gotta
going to be
pick a
aware of
different
what
one.
might be out there, but
Yeah, I'll give everybody the whole pool and then I'll let them pick.
are they
Everybody will
going
have
to
to
choose
pick a different
secretly
one.
or?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
Okay.
Because then I'm going to ask questions. And then just like for an example, like, so for uncover a traitor, the questions I have is, who do you suspect treachery in the first place? Who would you risk everything to protect? And have you uncovered secrets before or buried them? And so I just like followed kind of the Daggerheart format for questions. For win a
So you're
royal
going to have
heart.
connection questions and these additional agenda questions.
Yeah, generally like when you do a campaign frame, it has questions for you to ask to get them into the setting. But these are like my version that I'm doing instead.
Oh, these are like kind of the background questions.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
And yeah, for like win a royal heart, who taught you how to charm nobility? Have you ever been in love before? And what's the one thing you're not ashamed of and hope that they never learned? Or sorry, what's the one thing you're most ashamed of and hope they never learned?
Okay, I want to know about bad guys.
Okay.
How do?
Nice. That's about where I'm at in my prep right now.
Okay, so, perfect.
I have my session 0 outlined. So I've been trying to like break my sessions into sections with time limits for each section so that I can kind
of
like
typically do this, or is this one
this
shot
is
specific?
New. This is like I've been doing this for the last few months because it's hard to like manage time. And that's a tricky thing for one shots and session zeros. So I've been trying to like break my sessions into sections and give them a time limit so I have kind of an idea in the moment where we're at and if I need to push things along or if we have time to like dive in deeper. So I have like welcome and setup where I explain the tone and the theme and we go over safety tools. Should take no more than 15 minutes. And then I have character creation and connections and secret objectives. Should take 75 minutes. Group cohesion, which is where I'm going to like do the questions for their objectives. Should take about 10 minutes. And then I have 60 minutes for the encounter. That's the goal. Okay. We'll see how it plays out. Now what I'm working on is I have that outline for session 0. So now I've got the Daggerheart rulebook open, and I know that I want a big mushroom minotaur. And so I'm going to look into the book. And
are you in adversaries, that section?
Yep, I'm in the adversaries section. So, I mean, everybody's going to be level 1. So I'm looking at level 1 adversaries. And I'm going to try to find something that's like Minotaur adjacent if they don't have an actual Minotaur.
They do have a Minotaur wrecker, but it's level 2.
That's what I figured might be the case. So I'm going to, rather than tone that down, I'm probably just going to pick something else. Like I'm looking right now at this Cave Ogre. It's a tier 1 solo. And like I want this thing to, feel dangerous, but generally you have like a point limit in Daggerheart. And if there's a solo, you still have like a hand, like a lot of things. Like Daggerheart's a game where the fights are pretty big, like multiple enemies rather than just like one big dangerous enemy most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I don't care. Like I don't care if it's balanced. I want it to be rather easy. So I think one solo seems like what I want to do. And a solo in Daggerheart, like the adversaries are broken down into different types. There's like solos, which are like your boss level monsters. There's bruisers, which are like your mini bosses. And then you've got like leaders, minions, supports, ranged, skulks, like a whole bunch of different types. Socials, hordes. So yeah, I'm just going to go with one solo. And then I'm going to reflavor the abilities. Cave Ogre.
They have a construct that has trample.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I have a construct planned in another game.
Is it the one I'm in?
Yeah.
You can tell me, Chase. I'll never say a word.
You saw the robot at the end.
Oh, that's true. Well, I better peek the stats then while I'm looking.
Oh, they're going to be pretty different. No, but I usually do for the most part copy and paste like the actual stats, and then I will change up their special abilities to be different.
Do you, well, I guess so far in your Daggerheart prep, have you kind of made up your own special abilities, or do you like dragon, like do you say, oh, I like it, I like this one that the cave ogre has, I'm going to give it to the construct instead?
I've made up my own on a lot of them. Like I'm doing one for one of my home games where we're doing the Age of Umbra, which is like basically like a Dark Souls, Elden Ring type setting. And like they've got like your basic zombies and stuff in the rule book, but I wanted the enemies to feel really unique in that because that is kind of like what that whole vibe is all about, like super cool bosses with weird gimmicks and stuff. I feel like the encounters are really important in a setting like that. Because if the group wants to play like an Elden Ring setting, they probably want cool combats that are difficult. I made up like my own zombies that will rally all of the mindless husks. I'm trying to have like the non-boss battles be plentiful, like little like dorks that are kind of easy to kill, but they get overwhelmed. So I have ones that will raise more of them and rally them to attack and coordinate them, and yeah, things like that. And then I also have designed because along with adversaries, Daggerheart has a way to make your own terrains, and the terrains are really cool because they have like their own abilities. I've made a hollowed swamp that like does things with the hollowed creatures I've made and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
I forget about the environments. I've only, as you know, but the listeners don't, I've run Daggerheart once in a practice one shot to just sort of get my feet wet. But yeah, I did not touch the environments at all.
Yeah, it's a lot at first. It's kind of a tricky game to GM because you have to think about things in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot of prep that you could do that I think the game is better for prepping,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's within a session a lot of improv.
Yeah, because the game from the GM's perspective in this one is very reactionary. Instead of the players reacting to you, you're more like reacting to the players, which is interesting. Like you don't do things unless they build their own consequences, basically,
Right.
which is kind of interesting. There's a you get fear as a GM when they roll too much or fail, and then you spend that fear to do things.
Yeah. So are you making, well, wait, hang on, I don't want to jump ahead. So you're finding a tier 1 solo for this beast feast.
Yeah, and I do think I'm just gonna go with the ogre so far. Do you see any better one?
Let me cruise through and look for you. Yeah, that seems like probably the best. Unless you wanted to do, let's see, there's Patchwork Zombie Hulk.
Yeah, I was looking at that one too. That one could actually be kind of good. What I'll generally do is I'll think of some like abilities I want it to do, and then I'll look at the abilities that they have, and then I'll try to find like a middle ground. So for this one, I want it to have a spore burst. That's like an AOE that you use with your fear that is gonna like make everybody really hungry. It's gonna smell delicious, and I think it's gonna cause stress. Like I don't know if I want them biting it. I don't know how that would work, but yeah. So I think it's just gonna
I'm
make
so
them really
hungry.
hungry, make their tummies rumble, and I think we'll have a mark of stress. I want it to do something when they hit it. I want it to have a passive where it does something when it gets hit.
Could the spore burst come from getting hit?
It could, yeah, that's true.
Or, this is stupid. Could it have like some kind of blood splash, but it's not blood, it's like hot garlic butter, and that's why it smells like that?
Ooh, that's good.
It's just like boiling hot
Yeah,
butter.
that's a good idea.
Yay, contributing.
I don't want to give ramp up because I want to demonstrate like ramp up on the cave ogre is you have to spend a fear to spotlight them. Generally, you'll spotlight an enemy whenever they fail any check, or if they just make a roll with fear, success or fail, you'll spotlight them. I want it to have relentless, I think. That's a common ability on solos that
you could
lets you
spotlight them up
spend
to
fear
2
to take
times.
multiple actions with them.
That would make sense since it's on its own.
Yeah, I don't like the ogre. I might go down to the zombie.
I mean, they have a Tormented Screams action, which you could just sort of morph to that Spore Burst.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So I think I'm going to do Spore Burst instead of Tormented Screams. And that, yeah, can just really work the same way. Tormented Screams is everybody within far range has to make a presence reaction. And targets who fail lose a hope. Yeah. Losing a hope and me gaining a fear sounds good because they just want to eat it. Okay, so we're just...
They're hopeless because they really want to eat it.
Yeah. It's hard to fight when your tummy's rumbling. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste
That's the whole lesson of Delicious in Dungeon. That's like the first episode.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to keep Destructible to when the zombie takes major or greater damage. They mark an additional HP, but I'm also going to double that down with the aromatic blood. So if they do a lot of damage, they'll do extra, but it's also going to make blood spray out. Sizzling garlic butter blood.
Butter, not blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll have it do damage. I think I'll have it be a D6 plus 1. Now we're cooking. It's all coming together. I'm going to give it Relentless 2.
Are you going to let it absorb stuff? I guess if you don't really care about the health, maybe it doesn't need that.
Yeah, I think that I will have it not absorb stuff, and that will replace the Relentless, and then I will leave Flailing Limbs.
That makes sense if it's got big old horns.
Yeah. And then I will change its experience to fit.
You have to spend fear to use one of the enemy's experiences, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I want its experience to be to defensive, not offensive like this zombie. This zombie uses intimidation and tear things apart. I think I'm going to have it be Delicious Distraction, I think is going to be an experience. And then Protect the Mushrooms.
Is this part of a colony or something?
Yeah, Protect the Colony. That's a good one. Yeah, Delicious Distraction, Protect the Colony. There we go. There's 2 experiences at plus 2.
Easy. This is easy, Chase.
Yeah, that will give me the option to dump some fear to make the presence reaction more difficult. It'll give me a defensive way to spend fear. There we go. There's a Umami Minotaur.
So you can spend fear to use the experience to make their DC higher?
Uh-huh. Yep. You can use it to increase the difficulty, and the presence roll is equal to the difficulty. So difficulty is 13, but I can use an experience to increase the difficulty by 2, so it would make that reaction roll 15.
And then you could protect the colony to make it more difficult to hit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, gives a couple ways to dump fear that way. Because as like a GM in Daggerheart, you don't want to use the fear to like run the show too much. If you get like a lot of fear, it's good to dump it in other ways that make it feel impactful, but don't like give you a whole spotlight, you know? That way you're not spotlighting yourself too much.
That makes sense. I'm learning all these things.
Nice. That worked out well. Good spot on the zombie.
That's what I'm here for. So, is this happening in an environment? Are you going to make an environment for this?
No, I don't think I'll make an environment for session 0. I might make a feast hall for session 1. So yeah, I think session 0 is a wrap. I think that's it. I think we tie a bow on it and we call it good. Now my task list for session 1 is going to be create a list of NPCs. And I don't really want to do that yet because I want to make the NPCs after I see their questions and connections. And this is what's cool about the
Right.
campaign frames is the campaign frames like gives you a skeleton to work off of, but then like it leaves a lot of room for you to design the game around your players, which is very crit role. Like it's exactly how they run their campaigns. Is Mercer makes all of his story arcs based off of his characters' backstories. So yeah, so I'm gonna get the questions. I'm gonna get a vibe for the characters. I'm gonna see what agendas they pick, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of NPCs to support that. I'm gonna have a big list of backup NPCs for when people like Bill inevitably do something super weird and off the rails.
You just already know. Yep.
I'm gonna write out some buzz descriptions for like foods and the feast hall and the queen and make sure I have some descriptions ready to go. And then I'm gonna just let them drive it from there. But the last thing I need to prep is I want to look through the social enemies because I haven't actually given them a super good look, and I want to see if I want to like include any of them potentially. And again, I'll know more about that after I see what they pick, but I want to have an idea as they're building, like how they work. And then I want to look at the environments and see if I might want to do something with the feast hall, and then I can design my actual encounter for session 1 with the animated food and the necromancer. So
That's going to be so fun.
yeah, I think it'll work good. Hopefully. So I'm looking like the tier 1 social courtier.
Mm-hmm.
Ambitious and ostentatiously dressed socialite.
Sounds perfect.
And so like they have their tactics like discredit, gain favor, maneuver, scheme. Like that's what they're all about.
I see merchant for another social.
Yeah.
Oh, petty noble. Here you go, Chase.
Hey,
You
see,
need
we
a
got this.
good number of petty nobles there in the hall.
Right. HP3. I want to look at this section where they talk about socials because I don't actually like they're so weird. Interesting. I'm kind of surprised they don't have deeper rules around like how to defeat a social.
Yeah, like social points or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you think that could just be a clock, basically?
That is true. I guess that is probably it. They do have countdown clocks. So defeating a social is probably a countdown clock. Good call, Tori. Good call. I
What
will
would
make
you do
clocks for
without
them.
me, Chase?
And I guess they could kill them if they really wanted to. You could just conk them on the head with a frying pan, or I'll have a
Yep.
clock to like use presents or something to talk them down. Yeah, I might try to make like one social encounter for each agenda as a way for them to like complete them, or a clock or something. I'm gonna try to have like I'm gonna let them role play, but I'm gonna try to have some kind of mechanic for them to succeed. I'm gonna let that inspiration flow after I see what they do.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
that's good to know. Now I want to build the encounter and then I'll do the environment. And I'm going to decide. I'm guessing if I do the environment, I'm probably going to have it more focused around the social aspect because they do have social environments as well. So we have 4 players.
3 times the number of PCs in combat plus 2.
That's right. And then so that's going to be 4, 12, 14.
It's an overwhelming number of points, in my opinion. When I first was trying to use this formula to pick enemies and stuff, I was like, that's so many.
Yeah, it is a lot of points. But like I said, like you don't have to use them all. Like for the Umami Minotaur, it'll be a super easy encounter, but like it'll still be fun for them, right? So I think that this encounter formula is for like a significant encounter. Like this is an encounter that should be memorable. Like in my Age of Umbra game, there's going to be like an encounter where they just beat up a bunch of hollows, and I'm not going to follow the formula. But like if I'm gonna do like a boss and something that should be like, oh yeah, this is an intense encounter. I think this is the formula for an intense, memorable, balanced encounter. I don't think every single encounter you want to dump this many points.
Fair enough.
That's my take on it, anyways. Yeah, for the points, a solo costs 5. I think I definitely want this. I want like a big meat dragon chimera thing from the food. So I want a big solo there. So I'm just gonna kind of map this out and then we'll look through enemies. So I want a solo meat monster for 5. They also have like some adjusting things. So like if you wanted less stuff in a snappier encounter, I could have everything add a D4 to the damage and then subtract 2 points, which I might do since this is a one shot. So that leaves us with 7 points. I'm going to do a group or 2 of minions, and I think I'm going to have them just be like skeletons from the necromancer. I don't want him to be like, there's an actual necromancer in here, but I don't want him to like be constantly regurgitating guys. I'm just going to have him be like, you've wronged me, here's your food and some skeletons type of deal. And then he's going to be kind of a dork. So I think I'm going to have him be a support, a jagged knife like curse or hexer or something. Yeah.
Yep.
So he'll probably just be one of those.
He was not very effective in my combat. Do you remember? He was the one who didn't hit anything the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, so I think
he tried really hard.
I'm going to use one of those. So that's a support, which is 1 point. Okay, so we have solo meat monster for 5 points. We've got difficulty modifier for 2 points. We've got solo necromancer for 1 point. I want minions for 1 point. That's 5, 7. Leaves us with 5 more points. Let's see. Do they have a bunch of skeleton enemies here? Do they have like a skeleton?
They do. They have
leader?
Skeleton archers, skeleton dredge, skeleton knight, which is a bruiser, skeleton warrior is a standard.
Minion skeletons for 1. And actually, I think I'm going to do that times 2. So that's going to be 2 points. And then we're going to do 2 skeleton archers.
Nice.
Boom, there we go. A little army of skeletons with the necromancer and his big meat monster. Everything hits hard. We did it. And like, so that's going to be 8 skeletons from the minions. But I think that's really fun because minions are just like, if you overkill them, you can kill other minions in the same range of your attack. So you can do big AoE, like just blow things up.
I think it felt like an overwhelming number of enemies to me at first glance to run as a GM. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it would just take practice for me. Agreed. I'm not really a combat-centric GM to begin with, so I think that's the part of this game that I'm going to work on the most, I guess.
That's fair. See, I love building encounters, and I actually think this is one of the funnest encounter builders in a system I've done in a minute. It works really well. Like, it feels really balanced. I like it. I like the breakdown of the enemy types. It makes it nice and easy to get creative with
I do like that it gives you a very like straightforward way to make a varied encounter, you know, instead of just like, okay, well, I have this big strong dragon or whatever you're gonna make. Like, it gets away from the complete just like save or suck, or like, oh no, they one shot my boss. Well, now this encounter is lame.
I actually have thought of a way to make a single big bad boss if you don't want a bunch of miniatures either. Like, so if you have 2 or more solos, you subtract 2 points. You could, in theory, like for this 14-point encounter, I could take 2 solos and add the damage modifier. And that's 14 points. And if I didn't want 2 solos, I could just have one big bad monster that just automatically got to act twice and had double the hit points whenever it got spotlighted. And it would be more or less the same as 2 solos. So
yeah, that's true.
Like there's room to riff on it. And they have lots of good formulas for making your own creatures and stuff. They give you the ballpark stats. The math is very small and tight.
Now, Chase,
Mhm.
since this is a food encounter, I'm shocked you're not going to use an ooze anywhere.
See, I was thinking about, well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, green ooze, it screams Jello monster.
It does. That's true. It's not a bad idea, actually. Let's take a look at that. Where is
There's
the green ooze? It's a
skulks.
skulk.
There's a normal green. Oh, I guess they're both skulks, but there's green ooze and then there's tiny. And then there's red ooze and tiny red ooze. I guess the skulk thing, because like they're sneaky, so I don't know that this would be as like, oh, surprise, ambush.
I mean, it could be. Like, it could be like I could not reveal them when the necromancer first animates things, and I could have a couple oozes
That's
smacking
true.
people in the
Couple
face.
Jello salads come to life
Yeah,
unexpectedly.
that's actually not bad at all. That's good thinking, Tori. That's good thinking.
It was the art that inspired me. I was like, that green ooze looks like it should be a food
It
monster.
does. Let's see. A skulk costs 2 points. I'm going to cut one skeleton archer. Question is which one? I think the green.
Yeah, and the red is like Jello. Set things on fire, and the green is like dissolve stuff. Did you say you don't like Jello?
No, I like Jello shots. And I like Jello pudding cake.
Very refined. Jello pudding cake?
Have you never had Jello pudding cake?
No, and I don't plan on it.
Oh, Tori, it's so good. I know what I'm making next time you visit.
No.
Oh, it's
not
so
Jello
good.
Shots.
Yeah, Jello shots and Jello pudding cake. No, don't knock it till you try it. It's delicious.
But is it so it's Jello and pudding?
So it's instead of icing, it's pudding and Cool Whip with sprinkles on top because you gotta make it pretty. And then the Jello you cook into the cake, and it just like makes the cake a little bit jiggly and really moist. It's so good.
What flavor Jello do you use?
You can do any of them. I usually do raspberry.
Interesting. All right. I will withhold judgment.
Let's see. Should I do a tiny green ooze or a green ooze? I'm surprised they're both tier 1 skulks.
Wait. Is it because... Oh, that's because the green ooze splits into two tiny green oozes.
I see. Yes.
So, okay. That makes more sense.
I was like, how is this the same difficulty?
Yeah,
the tiny looks way weaker.
So start with the green ooze and then it splits.
Yep. Okay. So now
it would be funny if you made it Jello salad that nobody touched because it looked really gross. And so the necromancer like raises all of this food and the ooze is like especially hurt that nobody thought it
maybe the
good.
necromancer brought the Jello salad.
He's like, nobody liked my Jello salad.
Oh man. Okay, let's see. So now I have to decide on a solo to make a meat monster.
There is a minor demon.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
Instead of hellfire, it could like rain down meat. I don't know. Food.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what kind of... Wait, you said it's a meat monster, right?
Yeah, I need to write up a description for it. I want it to just be like a chimera of food.
Okay.
It'll have like maybe like the big old shoulder mushrooms of the thing that they killed at the start, and like maybe a boar's head and things like that.
Maybe also the minor chaos elemental.
Ooh, yeah, let's look
you could
at that.
kind of flavor all the chaos stuff as like food inspired.
What is that word? A coruscating? Coruscating
yes.
mass of
Good job.
Coruscating mass of uncontrollable food.
Yes.
It writes itself.
A minor food elemental.
Arcane form could already work. It could be resistant to magic.
Sickening flux.
Could be hungering flux.
Remake reality. Could transform instead of a different biome could be like turning objects into food.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. Instead of magical reflection, I can have food bites back.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. Good call.
Yay! Another gold star for me.
Yep. And then this won't have experiences because it's mindless and summoned.
Perfect.
Yes. Hey, hey, hey! There we go. We did it.
So you
There's
got
a
skeletons,
Daggerheart
you got
encounter.
green ooze, and a minor meat, a minor food elemental.
Yep.
And then you're going to build the environment after you hear all the characters' stuff, right?
Think so. Let me look at the environments really quick. I'm gonna see if anything like jumps out at me. They might have something like this, right? They have a lot of environments that kind of work in a
I was
plug and
scrolling
play.
through tier ones. They have a local tavern, an outpost town, and a bustling marketplace.
Yeah, for the social ones. Yeah, I think that one because I don't want to add too much complexity to the actual encounter. So I
Mm-hmm.
probably will make it social, and I probably will look at these for inspiration and think of something after I kind of get a vibe of the party and see what kind of
Yeah.
goals they're gonna go for. Like if they're gonna be like trying to poison somebody, I could have like alert guards or something, like tricky things like that to keep an eye on less savory activities.
So how do you use an environment like in an like I guess I understand something more straightforward like a traversal environment or what
Mm-hmm.
where it's like the characters versus the environment.
Mm-hmm.
That all makes sense. But when it's like social or like somewhere they're hanging out for a while and then maybe they do have combat or whatever, I guess how are you planning on using the features of the environment?
The way that I've seen them be useful so far is that it gives another list of options to provide consequences and raising stakes without just spotlighting NPCs and enemies. And sometimes it can help with things that, like, generally you spotlight the enemy that's getting attacked or targeted, right? So, like, if you have a swordsman who's up there fighting the boss and somebody that has a bow shoots at the boss, fails with fear, you want to try to direct the consequences towards the person who failed or generated fear, give or take. Like you can put it elsewhere, but you don't want to like make it feel like somebody's getting everybody else's consequences. And it doesn't always like make sense to where like the monster is going to disengage with the person who's in his face. Like if the guardian's trying to tank, you don't want to peel them off onto the archer right away. So I think it gives like an opportunity for more indirect consequences for people who are doing things kind of out of the fray.
That makes sense that also too is like just another place to dump your fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a little bit of it's like yeah, a little bit of forethought instead of having to improv
Yeah,
like
because you do
here's
have
a
to improv a
consequence.
lot as well too. Like I had one encounter where it's like they were fighting their reanimated friends, and so it just made sense that like, well, they killed this guy, but they did so with fear. So I'll make you mark a stress because you just killed your friend again.
Mhm.
Things like that. But an environment just gives like a nice rich way. It gives you like some set rules to dump it on, and then it also just gives you like a general theme to interact with because you're not limited to what you put on the environment, but it kind of gives you a direction to go in.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think whatever you do with the environment, here's one pitch for you for a feature. I guess this would maybe be more combat centric, but I just think that there should be a really big crowded table that is hard to I don't know. I'm picturing if this is like a proper feast hall with a fight, someone's
Mm-hmm.
got to jump up onto the table and kick dishes and stuff's got to go flying.
Yeah. No, that's actually, I could double it as both, right? Like I could have some social things and I could also have like a fear ability of like panicked crowd or something
Mm,
like that. And like, yeah, like I can have a table in there and I could have like I could have like breaking table or something, because I'm sure somebody's going to try to jump on the table and they can just do that. But I could have like, poor built table or something in there to spend if you're in the table breaks that they're on top of.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
And on that note, I think one of my last steps for prep is I'm gonna use Dungeon Alchemist to make some maps for this. I don't think we're going to record the map on this one, but this is a game where the combat, they have rules where like you don't have to measure everything, and they have like close and very close and far ranges. And like you can do it without a visual aid, but in my experience, it's just so much cleaner to have representation, even if it's basic for the players. So I'm probably going to make a pretty little map and just very simple tokens for the players to use so they can just keep track of their positioning. Because especially when I have like 8 skeletons around and they want to like cleave them all up and set up the best spots, like I want to have like a general positioning for the players to see.
Yeah, I do feel like just by the sheer fact that there are character abilities that have specific ranges, that sort of automatically not totally requires a map, but I think it definitely slots it into like this is a little easier to manage with a map.
And the game's set up to be like, you don't have to be very particular about it. You can just let people say like, I move up and kill all these things adjacent to all of them. And like, you can be like, okay, cool. Like if you're not using a map, but I think you lose a little bit of the tactical flair if you don't use a map in this one. Yeah. And that's a good flex point for the game.
Yeah, some people don't want that. Yeah. So
I think that's why they did do it that way, is like, if your group doesn't care and they just literally want to narrate the combat and you have very loose rules, you can do that. But it's also set up to be a little more tactical. I'm like, I like my like Pathfinder type games where you got like a little bit of.
You like tactical combat?
I know it's wild.
No.
So I like to use the visual aid of the map. So yeah, I'm gonna make a dungeon, a mushroom cave dungeon map on Dungeon Alchemist, and then I'll make a dining room. And I think I'm going to like have it be where the necromancer seals the room with magic.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
So that we don't have people trying to like go out in the halls and go too off the rails.
Then you definitely have to have a panicked crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'd say most groups are going to be like, nah, they're not going to leave the room. They're going to deal with it. But then you have Bill in the group, and like, you never know what's going to happen with Bill.
So. Well, all I'm learning from this is how Chase plans around Bill.
Exactly.
Well, this was educational for me.
It's helpful for me. You had some good ideas.
Thanks. What do your notes look like typically?
My notes, I just use a Google Doc, and I have become a big fan of using the tabs in Google Docs with like my sections. I try to mirror like if you play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or something that has a written adventure path, they'll have like sections that you can bounce around to. And so I kind of just try to outline it like that. Like for session 0, I have at the top, I have my outline of my steps and how long I want the steps to take. And then I have like a section for my introduction narrative, a section for my combat. And then when I put together for the, like my stat block is with the combat. And then like when and then I have a section for the agenda options. And then when I do my session 1, I'm going to do like my narrative stuff at the start, my outline. And then I'll have like probably all of the little agenda sections have their own tab that I can pop around in. And then I'll have the encounter at the end. My notes used to be pretty much non-existent, and it was very messy. And I did pretty good for not doing notes, to be fair, but I have realized that I have some inconsistencies that could be fixed with better notes. And so that is another thing I've been working on recently, is better notes.
That's very inspirational, because I'm about to start a Daggerheart campaign just with some friends, not recorded or anything. And it's been probably years since I've run an actual campaign. I used to do really good on notes. I kind of had an opposite trajectory, Chase. I sort of like had for a while, like, was really good about writing everything down and having kind of a nice, like, organized little template. And then, like, the more rushed I got, just like the smaller and smaller the notes
Yeah.
template became, until I was so totally that meme of, like, goblin named Boblin. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. Here.
I think it does benefit for notes to stay kind of snappy. Like, I'll make my outline because I can spend time on that out of the session. And I'm trying to set up my outlines where I can just kind of connect notes to the outline. Because, yeah, in the session, you don't want to be sitting there typing forever, like taking too many notes to interrupt the flow of the session, right? And I don't think you want to get too bogged down in your notes, because I think flexibility is a good tool for a game master. But you definitely want to make sure that you remember important bits that happen. So,
It's a lot easier to remember important bits when it's recorded.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, I think I have similar goals to be a little more organized and put a little more forethought into things before the session.
Yeah, I think I've been trying, and I think I've done pretty good so far. And I think, like, I started doing that towards the end of Stolen Fate Season 2. That's when we got back from WonderCon, and I made a bunch of goals and I started pushing it. And I think it, like, really showed on the last few episodes. I think, like, my flow was just smoother. I think that, like, the big impactful moments with, like, the deities and stuff wouldn't have been as impactful if I hadn't, like, prepped some of that stuff out.
I mean this as a compliment. I didn't notice a huge difference because I just always feel like you just seamlessly handle all of the nonsense that we throw at you.
That's very nice.
But including those last sessions where you were very prepared for what was to come. I think it made sense for such a, like, cinematic kind of few sessions too, when you want those, like, big moments of, like, something really important is happening.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to put it. Is preparation helps the big moments. You don't want to prep so much that you get bogged down in the little moments, but it is nice to have some nice, heavy, punchy, big moments prepared a little bit. Because it feels bad when you want this big dramatic moment and then you just kind of get, like, tangled up in your own words and then you kind of whiff it.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you too long, but we've talked about one-shot prep and sort of individual session prep, but I am also selfishly very curious how you think of, like, entire campaign arcs, because that also takes a lot of planning. It blows my mind that you were like, oh, Jack, you stole this random dagger. Well, it has Victoria's name on it. And then that went on through all season 1. And then we finally met this NPC. And then she betrayed us. Like, and that obviously wasn't, like, the main storyline, I guess. But just in general, I'm very curious to hear how you think about, like, planning out campaign and, like, long-term story beats and stuff like that. I know that's a big old loaded question, but
yeah, no, that's okay. That's a common question. People ask me that a lot. The thing I always say, like, when I plan campaigns, is that you don't want to plan a campaign. You want to build a skeleton. Players put the meat on that skeleton. So, like, I try to build a direction for it to move in. I don't prep it too far. Like, I prep milestones, right? Like with Stolen Fate, like, yeah, you need to find cards. There's going to be a moment when you're going to encounter the Prince of Wolves. There's going to be a moment when you have a big betrayal. And, like, I have these milestones planned, but I leave it very loose in between. And I will just kind of flex it off what the players are doing. And then, like, sometimes, like, I mean, like, I had the dagger planned out and you stole the dagger. And I was like, okay, this is a fun little thing that we're just going to keep doing back and forth. And then I just kind of, like, you got to be ready to, like, let go and throw something in the garbage if it doesn't work with the players, and then just change the direction. Because Victoria was not the original character that was going to fill that role. It was going to be somebody else. And you gave me an opportunity for this name Victoria that was being all mysterious and weird. And then you gave me this tragic backstory with your dad. And so then, instead of having this random dork that showed up that you guys had to trust, you had a potential mother figure that was going to be really heavy hitting when the betrayal happened. And so
wow. So I just so I just created my own demise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's just kind of how
Interesting.
you do it. So just build a skeleton, keep a gentle road that you follow, and then just fill the road with details that your players give you.
How do you I get like so just like literally what does it look like for you? Like when you are kind of at the beginning, say, of a campaign and you're sort of like, okay, they're going to find cards, they're going to encounter this bad guy, they're going to have a betrayal. Like what kinds of things do you sort of put pins in it? And like is this like an outline doc you have? Is this like just sort of mental notes? Like
So
what
it's
does it look
different
like
for
for
like
you?
Stolen Fate's a pre-written. And so when I
Right.
have a pre-written campaign, I just follow it as it's written until I find opportunities to change it. And then it's the same thing with a homebrew, except when it's a homebrew, I write out the sections of it. Like for my Age of Umbra campaign I have the hook. Like they're going to be sent off to go explore some scary place and they're going to be escorted by some person and there's going to be troubles along the road that I have planned. And I have like some encounters and some bosses planned along the way. But then I'm very ready to extend that, flex it, change it based on like how the characters end up developing. So you just need to keep enough of like a road ahead planned to keep the story moving. And then like when the session ends, that's your time to analyze what happened, look at the road that you have planned ahead, and see if there's ways that you can change it to better fit the party. So you always just plan like a little chunk of the road ahead, and then you evaluate it at the end of each session, and then change it accordingly, and then prep the next section of road.
You make it sound so easy.
It all comes together. That's the thing that's cool about TTRPGs is when you have a group of a bunch of people, they give you so many like arcs to build off of. It's not like you have to come up with all this stuff on your own.
Well, you said that, I mean, Stolen Fate was a pre-written adventure, but you have said yourself that we've gone very, not off track, but we have veered quite heavily from the pre-written stuff. I guess, are you still finding the adventure path useful? Like, are you still kind of working off of it as a base and then adjusting?
Kind of. I'm using the general base. And this is no slight on Paizo, but like Stolen Fate ended up not being a great fit for the type of story that I think our group likes to tell. Like Stolen Fate is almost written as is like an anthologies. Every card is its own little adventure. And you do the adventure, you get the card, and that's it. You go to the next card, and like as you can see, like stuff like the Stitcher pops up that's just like totally left field. And so like I wanted it to be more than just a constant stream of anthologies, so I started trying to make it tie together with a different story arc. So most of like the connecting arc with like Victoria and Willem and all this stuff is like my own homebrew that I just built into the chain of events of Stolen Fate. I've cut a lot because like there's a lot of little anthologies, and like we would have done like 40 episodes a season if we did all of them. So I try to think of ways to plausibly, condense them. Like Willem went and got some cards for you, and Victoria got a bunch of cards, and then you got a bunch of cards from Victoria. And as it goes now, like I'm still following like the key arc of this next book. I'm following what they are doing with the encounters, but I'm tailoring it a lot to like a bigger story. And I'm splitting the party, and the party is going to be like doing that simultaneously. I'm shortening them so that you guys are kind of knocking them out quicker from two separate paths, and then you merge. And then like once the party merge happens, it's gonna I'm gonna throw the book out for the most part.
Well, thanks a lot, Stolen Fate. You've been useful up to this point.
The deity sponsorships are also not in the book. It's not
Mm.
mythic. It's not tied to deities, but I think the Pathfinder deities are so fun as a setting, and you guys just like Krunk built this character that was super into Desna, and you took this little tiny nugget of Norgrbur, and you got so involved with it that just felt like a really fun clash of like two different devouts, Yeah, so I kind of shifted it in that direction a little bit.
Well, you gave me a really cool sword.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to go after it. I know that we say this on our channel frequently, but I really do think you're an amazing GM. So thank you for talking me through some of the ways that you think through this stuff. And
Yeah,
thank you
welcome.
for just always being available for questions and whatnot.
I wish I had a more like step by step, this is how I do it, but a lot of the times I just trust my own brain and I just wing it. If there's one strength I know I'm good at improving. And so
yeah. And I think that's true. Like, I don't know, not that we really need to tie a bow on this whole thing, but I think that's the key to being a GM in general, is figuring out what you like about it. Like what are your strengths, and then, you know, finding a method that works for you. Because there's really not one way to do this, or even like a magic bullet way that's gonna definitely work for you and improve all of your sessions overnight. Like it's just...
That's another part of the analysis after each session. It's not just analyzing what the players did. Sometimes you gotta analyze what you did and like figure out your own stuff. Like, oh no, I gave Jack a super broken sword. How am I gonna balance that out?
Wait, what? You did that on accident?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy.
Wait, how did you not? I'm confused how you didn't know that it was broken ahead of time.
I mean, I kind of did, but like I rolled with it, and the whole thing with nobody, I was like, man, this moment feels like really dramatic. I can't just have this be something dorky. This has got to be big. And so I just rolled with it. I was like, let's make this a really big moment.
Did you make up that weapon on the spot?
Yeah.
What was going to be the reward otherwise?
Like 200 gold or something.
Oh my
god. I was like, nah, this isn't going to be rewarding. Jack put his heart and soul into this.
If you gave me 200 gold.
I could imagine. That's why I changed it.
I never would have forgiven you. Oh
see,
my
I trusted
gosh.
the improv.
Well, I'm glad you did. I can't even wrap my head around how I would have felt if I had done that and got 200 gold.
Yeah, it would have been pretty disappointing.
Oh my gosh, I'm literally crying right now from laughing. Everyone who's listening. Well, good improv, Chase, because I also didn't even notice. Going back to what you said about analyzing yourself, though, I'm very curious. What, like, do you feel like there are things that we all look at ourselves and see things we can get better at as like GMs and stuff? I'm curious if you have any examples of times when you have been like, and it doesn't even have to be recent, but maybe when you were starting out, just like, oh, I wish I would have done it like this, or like lessons that you've learned as you've sort of reflected on your own performance as a GM.
Yeah. I've done a lot of that. Like it's tricky to GM, and it's you put yourself out there. It is an art form. And so it's a little scary sometimes because you're creating a whole experience for your friends, and they're creating it with you, but there's a lot on the GM. And so, I mean, analyzing myself is something I started doing. There was a minute when I was like, oh, I'm good at improving. And I got a little cocky in the middle. I was like, I don't have to like worry about anything else. I just wing it all the time. And then I realized, I could be doing better. Like there's things that I can work on. So analyzing yourself is, I think, a big part of doing that. And then, I don't know, something I've learned is that you want to always just GM with confidence. You want to GM like everything you do was the intended thing to do, because it makes the moments feel big for the players, and it makes them like get invested. It makes them play along to it. Like, yeah, I did this thing. I'm going to follow this arc. And then that in turn ends up giving you more depth to go off of when you evaluate it afterwards. So just GM confidently, even if you're winging it.
Just lie right to their faces. Make them believe that they earned this mythic sword.
Oh yeah,
that you had it
Line's
planned
GM's
all
best
along.
tool. Yeah. And then, I always try to work on things like you want to work on painting word pictures because that is kind of a universal tool that can be fun for everybody. You want to I don't think you have to do voices. I don't even think my voices are that great, but just build a repertoire of different narrator voices. They don't have to be anything crazy, but you want a list of voices to let people know that different characters are talking, because there's going to be an inevitable time that you need a monologue between a couple NPCs that aren't the other players. We need to do feminine voices and masculine voices and big voices and little voices. And so I think that's a good thing for everybody to work on.
I'm still reeling from that revelation. I feel like I found out Santa Claus isn't real.
So funny.
I also can't believe you never told me that.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I don't know when it would have come up, but
most of these secrets die with me anyways, so.
You are a very, very don't ask, don't tell kind of GM.
Gotta keep the smoke and mirrors up.
Yeah, you are, but you do usually tell us if we ask you directly.
Yeah. I am also a firm believer, I wing a lot of stuff, but I am also a firm believer in having certain things that are set so that consequences do have impacts and that I don't accidentally become biased. If you don't have set consequences to certain things, then it becomes well, it doesn't really matter how they handle it because I'm always just winging it. And so I do have things that I track, and I do try to have things that you guys have to accomplish in a certain time or with a certain efficiency. And I don't just always let you guys win. I want to have failure on the table, and I want to have it be a fair chance of failure or success so that I don't just bias the story in one way or another.
Do you feel
within the role play itself, be flexible.
Yeah. Do you feel like that bias was something that you ran into or earlier as a GM? That
I think I went the other way too hard at first. I think I was live and die by what it is, don't be flexible. And that made things a little too rigid. And then I've gone the other direction on accident where I'm just gonna just roll with it. And then I'm well, nothing they do actually matters because I'm just kind of rolling with it. And the group always wants to win, so I'm always letting them win. And that kind of made for a more boring story. So try to balance it.
That makes sense. I didn't really think about sort of determining the consequences beforehand as helping you keep the stakes up.
Yeah. Like I said, with this social encounter, I'm gonna let them just run with the role play, and I'm gonna be flexible, but I am gonna have some little mechanic for each thing that they will want to try to accomplish to see if they succeed or fail at their goal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the events leading up to that success or failure, I will be flexible with it, and I might tailor it in the end to better fit, but there will be a chance of success or failure that is unbiased.
Well, I'm quite excited to be a viewer of these Daggerheart episodes without the pressure of being in them. I can just see for myself how it all works out. We'll see if or when we release this conversation. I think we should. It's been kind of fun picking your brain, and I don't know, maybe people out there would be curious to hear from you, our resident game master expert. I was, so I can only assume that this will be helpful for some other folks out there.
I would agree.
Kind of an aimless conversation. Hopefully, if you came for strictly Daggerheart session prep, we did. I mean, there's some of that, but there's also just philosophizing. So
prep was the name of the game. Daggerheart just happened to be on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, this was useful for you guys. Any departing thoughts you want to leave us with, Chase?
The last thing is that I just anybody who ever watches stuff like this, GMing can seem like a big scary thing, but also all of these things that I go over that Tori just asked me about, they're nitpicky. Anybody can GM a game, and you do not have to be a perfect veteran GM to have a good time. And in fact, I would say that most people who run games are pretty rookie because a lot of people don't have the time, or they just started playing. And you don't have to be a big name to run a good game. And you're never gonna get there if you don't just start doing So don't worry about the nitpicky stuff and just get out there and run a game and then evaluate yourself and always try to get better. But don't let it stress you out either. Like, you can just wing it and have a great time with your friends.
I would agree. I just wanted to add too that I think, well, two things, two thoughts. One, as everyone watching knows, we do this as entertainment, and we are far from, professionals or anything like that. But I think that, like, Chase, I mean, I know I think about my play and certainly my jamming differently for, like, just my friends at home versus if I'm prepping something for the channel. I can only assume, Chase, you think differently about how you run Stolen Fate versus how you're going to run a home game. So for anyone at home, just like running a game with your friends, it doesn't have to be perfect and polished. Ours is also not perfect and polished.
It's like, it can be really messy with your home games, and everybody will still have a great time. I focus a lot more on cleaning things up for recording because, like, we have to try to make it like nobody wants to watch a 5-hour messy game on like a replay, but we try to clean it up and make it digestible, which is not something you have to do for your home game. Your home games, you can start the session when you want and stop the session when you want, and you can take as long as your friends want to, and it's not a big deal. So
take breaks, yeah, pause in the middle, whatever.
mm-hmm.
And then I was also just going to say that kind of just as important as it is to just practice and figure out what you like about GMing and kind of what your style is, I think it's also, I've learned a lot about myself as a GM just by running different games, which I know not every group wants to do. So a lot of groups, they've got their D&D or Pathfinder, Daggerheart, or whatever, and that's just what they want to play. That's totally fine. But running different games, I think, can also help you kind of tap into, like, oh, maybe it's not that I'm a bad GM. Maybe it's just that, super tactical, crunchy combat is hard for me to manage as a GM, for example. That's something I've, like, it's not impossible for me to do, but it's not, I have found, like, my strength as a GM. And I've found that because when I run games that are much more cinematic, kind of like fiction driven and sort of theater of the mind, and we don't really care about where people are standing precisely and which mobs are doing what, that feels a lot more natural to me. So that was like a helpful revelation that I wouldn't have really learned if I were just playing the same game over and over again.
Other games build your GM repertoire too. Like, I learned how to do a good mystery through Vase, and I learned how to do a good heist through Blades in the Dark. I learned how to be super cozy cute from Ryutama. Like, different games focus on different things, and you can carry those over to other games.
Yeah, and adapt ideas like that you see in other games of systems that you like or think are interesting. Yeah, just kind of gives you more to pull from your tool belt.
Yeah.
So there's my plug to go explore other games too.
That's what we do.
All right, Chase. Well, thanks again for having this little chat with me.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. It was fun prepping with somebody.
Yeah. All right, fellow geeks. I guess until next time, whether or not this is coming before or after Daggerheart, we'll see. But till next time, take a long rest. No, wait, I did that out of order, right? No, it's take a long rest, drink plenty of water, and we'll catch you next time.
Don't forget to eat your monsters.
Bye.